Let's say you're moving to Denver, but not necessarily inside of Denver. We're going to be covering 2 cities right now that so many viewers just like yourself are choosing when relocating to the Denver metro area.
All right, let's go.
If this is your first time watching, we are your Colorado real estate family, Pete and Chelsea Sweeney.
Yes, and as much as we love making these videos for you, we love even more so helping with your real estate needs. We're gonna put our phone number down below. Call or text us anytime if you're looking for a licensed real estate agent here in Colorado. Before we get going, we have to talk about how beautiful it is outside. Like, I actually might get a sunburn recording today because it's about, what, 55?
I think it's 55 degrees is what the car said when we were driving up.
And honestly, I know some of you are coming from hotter states and you're like, 55 is not that hot, Chelsea. It is for us in February. It feels beautiful out. You could be outside enjoying this weather. Absolutely in Colorado.
Yeah, it's been crazy cold here a lot lately, guys. That's why I've been indoors so much. It's not warm enough yet though to wear those shorts. And I really want to wear shorts because if you've ever watched any of our other videos, I do not like wearing pants. I prefer shorts all the time. And so sometimes if I'm showing up to showings with you guys, I might be in some shorts. You know, usually I'll dress it up a little bit though with a polo or something. So, all right, let's go and dive in. What cities are we talking about? What cities are we comparing? We're talking about Westminster and Arvada. And funny enough, these are the 2 cities that I actually grew up in, where I grew up in my younger childhood down in Arvada, and then my older portion, I guess my high school years, over in Westminster. So these 2 cities are the ones I'm super familiar with just because this is where I mainly grew up.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah.
So I was elementary school in Arvada.
Yep.
And then junior high kind of Westminster, and then graduated back in Arvada. So
yeah, so we're super familiar with these guys. If you guys need any experts here, we're definitely those people that
we
you
are
can
the
talk
ones.
to.
Arvada, Westminster, we lived in every area of it. So
all right, cool. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about in regards to these 2 cities is location and accesses of each one.
Oftentimes when you guys are asking us, you know, proximity or location, you're usually comparing that to Denver. So if you're going from Arvada, it's going to be about 21 minutes, and then Westminster is 25. Now, I do need to say something about that because Arvada does touch I-70, and that's talking about South Arvada, and that's kind of where a lot of the accessibility to Denver is because of the major highway going east and west, which is going to be I-70. If you're in North Arvada, that's definitely going to increase by another 10-15 minutes depending on where you're at because of the accessibility or lack of accessibility in Arvada. When you're looking at Westminster, we talk about that diagonal highway going, you know, from Denver to Boulder, which is going to be Highway 36. That cuts across Westminster and makes accessibility a little bit easier in comparison to Arvada.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in South Arvada, you're not going to have a problem whatsoever. Just like Chelsea mentioned, you have I-70 that goes straight over. Westminster, if you are looking to get in downtown, it's a little bit more universal where you live in Westminster because of 36. And even if you are on, like, say, the east side of Westminster, it's not that far from I-25. So if you're looking to commute down into Denver, you don't have to be as stuck in one spot as you would, or I'm sorry, Arvada, you'll be stuck in one spot as opposed to Westminster where you could be a little bit more universal.
What is the desire in comparison to Arvada or Westminster? Well, I will say that a lot of people try to land in Arvada because of the proximity or just how close it is to our foothills and to our mountains. So the way that it works is that Arvada is that city that's going to be touching our foothills, and Westminster is going to be directly east of that. But luckily, they're touching and they're not that far away from each other. So even if you are trying to make your way from Westminster over the foothills, you're still going to be able to get there even from the furthest spot within 20 minutes. But Arvada, you can see the foothills, you can play in the foothills, and it'd be about 5-10 minute drive.
Yeah, we always talk about this too. Pretty much the closer you get into the mountains or the foothills, your price point is going to be a little bit higher on those houses, and we're actually going to dive into that later in this video. One thing that Arvada does have the upper end on though is your light rail stations or your commuter rail. That's kind of our public transit here in Colorado. Now we really don't go over buses because the light rail is such a huge thing here. And Arvada actually has 3 different stations that are located in Arvada, which is the G line. If you want to go up into Westminster, Westminster only has 1 line, which is the B line. There are talks that possibly they might extend the B line a little bit further into northern Westminster, but as of right now, there's nothing on the plans.
Yeah, so here's something really crazy. When we grew up, there were no light rail stations. So all of these light rail stations are all new. It's usually, we always talk about how the light rail stations end up going in where the new hottest spots are going to be. So we do have one in Old Town Arvada, which is definitely a hot spot in Arvada because it's like old town. It's got the walkability. People desire that space. And then now, which used to be industrial, Over off of Ward Road, we have a light rail station there, which again, guys, this is where the Jolly Rancher factory used to be, okay? It was a big tradition that when we were driving, south on Ward Road, we'd be going to soccer or something, we would all try to guess on what flavor they were making. Now it's this amazing area where they're getting a bunch of new builds put in there, the light rail station, so
it's a hot spot for sure.
All new and really rising up accessibility to Arvada.
Yeah, and another thing to note with the light rail stations that are in Arvada, Colorado, is they are mainly following that I-70 highway. So if you do want access to them, you're still going to have to be on the south side of Arvada in order to access them. That's why those areas are blowing up. That's why Old Town's blowing up. That's why the Arvada Ridge Station is blowing up over on Border Road. And so if you want access to those, you will have to be on the south side of Arvada.
Now, the good thing about Westminster and its accessibility to the light rail is that it's going to be kind of surrounded by this area that we're in right now, which is Westminster downtown. And the good thing about Westminster downtown is there's a bunch of suburbs surrounding it. Proximity to the light rail station might actually be a little bit more convenient, say if you're coming from North Arvada trying to get down to South Arvada.
One quick note in regard to public transit coming from Westminster, you do have the Flatiron Flyer, which pretty much goes on 36, that diagonal highway that we talk about. They have a station they have a RTD station right here next to the downtown Westminster that you can access, and that goes pretty much from Denver and it goes up into Boulder is the Flatiron Flyer bus that kind of commutes back and forth between those.
All right, before we start getting into all the other comparisons, if you're liking this content or you're just interested in following us around Colorado and all of the different cities, please hit that subscribe button, the like button, comment down below, let us know what you're liking, what you want to hear more of. We do these videos for you. All right, so one thing we absolutely have to talk about is the two downtown/old towns because they are very different in comparison to each other. So Westminster downtown, and then we'll call Arvada its old town. So what do you think are the biggest differences?
So the biggest difference obviously is how new Westminster downtown is, and Westminster never really had a downtown. They had an old section of Westminster, which is like one street, and you had a lot of mom and pop shops that were on it, but they never really had the same downtown that Arvada did until they decided to tear down the Westminster Mall, which is where we are standing right now. They used to have right here. Whoa, I'm tripping over myself over here. It used to be right here, and now they built this huge downtown. It's been going for a long time. It's still not filled up, but it's crazy how fast and large this Westminster downtown is building.
Take about 30 years or something crazy.
So
if I were to describe the two, I would say that Westminster downtown is very modern. It's kind of a little bit more ritzy. We're gonna start seeing very bougie, restaurants or one-of-a-kind restaurants.
Urban. They're trying to bring like that urban lifestyle into Westminster.
Yes, we're gonna see the condos. We're gonna see some rentals.
The row homes.
The row homes, and then we're going to really see that be combined and transitioned into the suburbia areas surrounding it, and really just kind of be the hub, so people aren't having to go to Denver. Now, if you're talking about Arvada is the long strips of that old town feel. It has the painted sidewalks now. After COVID, they shut down the main street that used to be able to drive between to get to the movie theater. Now they've shut that all down. They've painted the roads, and they've really brought in this, I don't know how, like this old town, awesome, old buildings, brick buildings.
I call it the Hallmark effect, right? Because I feel like every time you watch a Hallmark video, every family or every situation, they're like living in this like little cute downtown. Everyone knows everyone's name. You got the little shops and stuff. That's like Old Town Arvada. So if you want that Hallmark effect, that might be more for you than this Westminster downtown.
City meets that small Hallmark effect. Yes. that with Westminster being kind of that newer area, that it would have all of the happenings that you would have in Denver.
Lifestyles, yeah.
But here, I don't think so. Like, we have a couple, like, kind of nice bars, a coffee shop.
Really nice. Like, I remember we went over, so if you can see behind us, there's a theater right here, and our friends, we went over to one of the bars, and I was like, how much is it for a freaking drink? And like we said, it's a little bit more of a bougie area.
It was a little bougier, yeah. Whereas...
Well, I didn't even know what it was. I was like, I'll take a vodka soda, and like, oh, would you like a blah with the mint and this and that? I was like, what the heck are you talking about?
We're a little simple when it comes to drinks. We're like, yeah, that sounds great. Yep. But when you go over to Arvada, there is some of that nightlife, the bar area. We've got some breweries. We have the whiskey bar. We have some karaoke.
Well, even the pizza place gets hopping a little bit from that.
Oh, 100%. It has the breweries. It has different, bars.
They have a Harvest Festival down there, too, that kind of surrounds the whole area.
And then the other thing, too, is they have the whiskey bar, the taverns, kind of that whole area. When we go down there for St. Patty's Day, they have local people coming in.
Local pubs.
Little local pubs. And they'll have people come in and do individual, like, music and stuff like that. So I definitely feel like it's more popping than downtown Westminster. I don't know if that will change with this 30-year build out, if we're going to start seeing a little bit more of that. But I would say it's a lot more like live, work, play here.
Oh, yeah.
Versus downtown being kind of an experience over in Arvada.
Well, yeah, and that's what they're going with the Westminster downtown is eat, live, play, all here, where you pretty much, you could just walk around, you could do your shopping, you could do your eating, you could do your drinking or your nightlife if you want to at nighttime, and then just walk straight over to wherever you live. Whereas Arvada, yes, they do have those surrounding houses, but it's still not looking for the same walkability as you would here in downtown Westminster.
The third thing that we're going to be talking about is kind of the size and population of each of these cities. But don't leave yet and stick around because we're going to be talking about cost of living and diving into the real estate up next. So stick around for that. Okay, as far as comparing the two cities, Arvada, which I was actually a little bit surprised about because it is bigger. It's about 130,000 in population, whereas Westminster is about 120,000 in population. I was confused by this because a lot of our new builds in Arvada has been kind of squeezed to the northern west side of Arvada, whereas Westminster, it feels like it goes north for days. And so I was actually confused. I did not realize it was going to be that much bigger. It just doesn't feel that much bigger.
I feel like Arvada has been putting a lot more newer development or new build homes in that northern west side, and that's where a lot of that population growth came from. Whereas before, when I was growing up, I was always under the impression that Westminster was always larger than Arvada, but that's actually not the case, where even land-wise, like where Westminster is almost 34 square miles and Arvada is almost 40 square miles. So I was definitely, I was wrong.
I will say though, Arvada does feel smaller. I know the facts are not saying this, but for some reason it feels smaller. I don't know if it's because Westminster is surrounded by other cities and Arvada is kind of nudged up against the mountains, and so it feels like it just abruptly stops, but it does feel smaller. Now, if you were looking at it in comparison to Colorado, Arvada is the 7th largest city in Colorado and Westminster is the 8th largest city.
So they're right neck and neck.
They're not far from each other. They're right there.
And there's times when you're driving in Westminster and actually, or you think you're in Westminster and you're in Arvada, and it's vice versa, where you're driving and you're like, I'm in Arvada, and actually no, you're in Westminster. And so usually Wadsworth is like the boundary, but they're just really like right next to each other. That might be a big reason why they are so similar in regards to population and land size. Next topic we're going to be covering is the cost of living of both of these cities. And if you guys haven't watched any of our other cost of living videos, what we like to do is based on a national point average, where 100 is your national average right here. If it's higher than that, obviously it's more expensive. If it's lower, then it's cheaper than your national average.
Okay, so as far as Arvada goes, I took 3 different numbers. The first one's going to be the overall, then we went into housing, and then I did miscellaneous. Those are the 3 things that really differ from Arvada to Westminster. So Arvada is going to be 131.7, so almost 132 as far as overall, whereas Westminster is 125.6. So Arvada is obviously more expensive when it comes to overall. The 2 things that I saw that divvied that up is going to be housing. Again, Colorado on a housing is 120, so higher than national average already. Arvada is going to be at 191.7. I do think that is contributing to the newer builds, but Peter's going to dive in, so stick around. And then in Westminster, it's going to be 173.2. So these by no means are cheap cities to live in, and they're a little bit higher as Colorado as a whole, but still way cheaper than some of its surrounding cities.
Let's dive into the median sales prices in both of these cities. So first we'll cover Arvada, Colorado. And so we're looking at, I kind of divvy it up. I like to do single family and then also attach your multifamily, so your condos, townhouses, and row homes. If you're looking at purchasing a single family home, currently the median sales price as of January of 2023 is $595,000, and that is actually up 3.5% year over year. Now here's another crazy number I'm going to throw out. First, let me tell you the median sales price on your attached, your condo, townhouse, row homes, you got a median sales price of $514,000. Now here's a stat though that's kind of crazy, is that is actually up 22, almost 23% year over year. And I think a big reason that we're seeing this right now is with the interest rates going up the way they are, a lot of our buyers are being moved into a product more like you're attached. That might be why the price point's going up, because you got a little bit more competition for that attached product.
The other thing too is Arvada has never had a lot of options in that department, and now we're seeing with all of the light rail stations and some of these new areas that we're seeing a lot more options for people moving to Arvada to also be able to move in that type of living.
That's a fact. Let's break into Westminster now. So your median sales price on your single family homes is $538,000, and that's actually only up 0.3% year over year. So it's pretty much just stagnant, right? It didn't go up that much. Now let's look at your attached housing. You're looking at a median sales price of $406,000, and that is actually up 9.7%. Again, we're seeing that where our attached products are up a little bit higher than our single family homes year over year.
So real quick, just to kind of give you an idea about where some of our older homes are that are going to be a little bit cheaper versus some of our newer homes. In Arvada, on the east side of Arvada is going to be kind of your older Arvada. Everything on the west side is going to be your newer homes, even 2000s and up. And then of course, some of our 2020 and our newer communities in the northwest side. When you're in Westminster, it's going to be south to north. Everything on the south side of Westminster is going to be kind of older. As you go further north, you're going to have all of your newer homes that are driving those higher prices. Okay, now wrapping up cost of living, if we're going to dive into that third thing that is kind of a big difference from one to the other, is going to be the miscellaneous. And that's going to include restaurants, shopping, what else? Insurance and kind of all the...
No, not insurance. So it's just like pretty much all your shopping, like, eating out, your boutiques.
I swear I'm going to get a...
I always have to throw that in there. I'm always like, wait, let me put a little word in here and say boutique.
If you've been following us for a while, I've been talking about getting him a shirt made. I want to hear all of your comments if you think that'd be hilarious to see Peter with a boutique thing down below. Tell us if he should be wearing the shirt for the next video. In Arvada, miscellaneous is going to be 155.2, whereas Westminster, it's 111. Now, I do think this is because of Old Town, some of the shopping, some of the ma-pa restaurants. I do think that those are contributing to some of that. We do have a lot of the, natural grocers and Whole Foods that might be driving some of the, costs. Overall, with all of those numbers we just threw at you, Arvada is going to be 4.9% higher than Westminster, and housing being 10.3% higher than Westminster. So Arvada definitely is going to be a little bit more expensive.
The fifth and final thing that we're going to cover is your schools in both of these places. Now, here's the thing right now is that Jefferson RE1 is actually shared by Arvada and Westminster. And so if you're on the west side of Westminster, actually, I feel like we were just talking to one of our clients about this.
Yes.
If you're pretty much, Wadsworth West, still in Westminster, that's going to be your Jefferson County, where you are that Jefferson R1, not RE1, R1. And if you're on the east side of Westminster, which is pretty much the east side of Wadsworth, you're in your Westminster Public Schools. If you want to find out more about those districts, I highly recommend checking out niche.com. I believe that Jefferson R1 is an A-, and the Westminster Public Schools is a C. But again, go check out Niche so that you can refer back to those numbers.
Okay, we talked about 5 different topics when comparing Westminster and Arvada here in Colorado. If you have questions about each of these cities, please feel free to reach out. We do these videos for you.
And of course, guys, we're in the phone number below one more time right there. Give us a call, give us a text. Doesn't matter day or time. We are there to answer them all. Until next time, we love you.
Bye. You 5 different things in comparison. Wow. Let's start that over.
2 cities that so many people. Okay. Let's say you're moving to Denver, but you don't necessarily.
Boopda?
My Pete and Chelsea Sweeney.
Yes, and if. Oh, hell.
No, I
don't know where you're going. And even though they are touching, it still isn't that far. No, not even though. Shit. Hold on. Okay. It has the breweries. It has, even during the